Hey guys, today I'll show you a horror TV series named Sweet Home Season 1. Spoilers ahead, watch out and take care. The drama begins with a depressed boy named Cha moving to Green Home, a rundown neighborhood after his parents passed away in an accident. He went to the rooftop to terminate his own life, but couldn't go through with it. Just then, a ballet-dancing girl caught his attention. She looked beautiful under the sunlight, but the scene ended abruptly when she stepped on a piece of gum. She asked Cha if he was responsible and told Cha not to cause trouble and to go die elsewhere. The neighborhood was a mixed bag of residents. Living above Cha was a girl who loved playing bass. She worked part-time while composing music, dreaming of achieving her musical dreams. One day, she encountered a strange woman with a baby carriage on the same floor. The woman claimed to have a 1-year-old daughter, but when the bass girl peeked into the carriage, there was no baby. She made an excuse not to share the elevator with the strange woman. Later, a man appeared explaining that the strange woman was a good person who had lost her child and had mental issues. The man was a literature teacher and a devout Catholic, but his overenthusiasm made the bass girl uncomfortable. Leaving the elevator, teacher accidentally bumped into a man wearing a floral shirt. The man didn't look back and walked straight into the elevator, revealing a large scar on his cheek. His name is Wook, and he tied another man up with tape, trapping him in his room. Ignoring the man's pleas, Wook forced a lit cigarette into his mouth, indicating a grudge between them. Meanwhile, at the security room, a guard was scolded by a resident for sleeping on the job. As he was feeling down, a woman claiming to have moved from Gangnam brought him a box of fish. Since she didn't like them, she gave them to the guard, who found that the fish had gone bad. The guard suddenly started having a nosebleed. He then went to the 14th floor where Cha was staying and reminded him to fill in the residence documents. Cha said he would do it later and close the door, but the guard suspiciously lingered outside. A girl living next door to Cha happened to pass by and casually mentioned the guard's nosebleed. After the girl appeared, the guard finally left. In the evening, Cha stays in his room playing games while the girl next door is feeding her cat. Despite being on a diet and trying to lose weight, she can't help but complain that she's starving to death. She seems to be on the phone with her family, mentioning that she's been experiencing auditory hallucinations and unexplained nosebleeds lately. As she finishes, the sound of the girl's breakdown and crying can be heard. Cha, exhausted from playing games, prepares to sleep. Then he receives a text message from a delivery man. With the security guard absent, the package has been left at his door. Strangely enough, the package seems to have been opened, and the instant noodle packaging inside has been torn apart. Noodles are scattered all over the floor. Following the trail on the ground, Cha arrives at the neighbor girl's open front door. Suddenly, a bloody hand reaches out from inside the room and grabs the decapitated pet cat, the body of which has been eaten. Horrified, Cha dashes back to his room and hides under the covers. Soon, the doorbell rings. The girl next door speaks in a panicked tone, pleading for help repeatedly. Cha musters up the courage to answer the video call. The girl tearfully tells him that she just got home to find the door unlocked, her room in disarray, and her cat missing, with blood all over the floor. She begs Cha to open the door and accompany her. Cautious Cha doesn't immediately open the door, opting to help the girl call the police instead. But there's no cell signal. To rule out that the girl isn't the monster that ate the cat, Cha wants to see if there's blood on her hands. Unexpectedly, the girl's face turns pale, and she becomes frantic the next second. She roars at Cha to open the door, looking menacing and with blood streaming from her nose. Just as she's about to break in, music from the bass girl upstairs distracts her, and she leaves. Armed with a stick, Cha goes outside to investigate and sees Wook coming downstairs. He asks if the man has seen a strange woman, but faints before he gets an answer. The bass girl is immersed in her music, unaware of what's happening outside. Hearing the doorbell, she thinks she has disturbed the neighbors with her late-night music and hurries to apologize. But as she looks up, she sees the girl's terrifying face. In just a few minutes, the girl has transformed into a monstrous appearance. The monster girl keeps repeating she's hungry, and when the bass girl refuses to open the door, she becomes desperate and starts pounding on the door. The bass girl grabs a baseball bat for defense. When she returns to the door, the monster girl has disappeared, replaced by the sudden appearance of Wook, startling her a lot. The bass girl tells Wook about her encounter. They notice a large hole in the glass window at the end of the hallway, likely the escape route of the monster girl. Wook takes a swing at the bass girl's door, leaving an indentation to flex his incredible strength. In the evening, Lee, the ballet girl's brother, is preparing to go out for work when he discovers that the elevator is not functioning properly. At the same time, people who want to go out find that their phones have lost signal. To make matters worse, all the exits of the apartment building have been locked. It seems that someone is deliberately trying to trap everyone inside the building. Seo, a former Special Forces soldier who now works at the fire department, violently breaks the lock on the control room door and enters. She plans to use the landline phone inside to call for outside help, but the phone is malfunctioning. The supermarket owner finds the switch in the control room and excitedly tells everyone that they can soon open the roll-up door leading to the outside. Hearing the good news, everyone gathers at the door. However, as the roll-up door slowly opens, they see a tall monster standing at the entrance. Curious like peeping toms, they peek outside, and an aunt even takes a photo to post on her social media. By the time everyone reacts, it's too late. The monster opens its bloody mouth and a long, juicy tongue reaches out, wrapping around a security guard, possibly for a free massage. But in the blink of an eye, he is sucked dry by the monster. Seeing this, some people quickly hide, while others want to hide but are paralyzed with fear and collapse to the ground. In the face of crisis, only Lee bravely steps forward to fight. He uses a fire extinguisher to force the monster back. He tells the confused supermarket owner to cooperate with him. Once the monster is forced out of the apartment, they must immediately close the roll-up door. Just as they are about to succeed, the fire extinguisher stops working at the crucial moment. Suddenly, Seo appears, tackling the monster outside the apartment door. Lee quickly pulls her back into the apartment. After the crisis is resolved, the supermarket owner complains to Seo, asking what the government is doing. They pay so many taxes every year, yet the authorities can't even handle one monster. Lee tells everyone that there are more than just one monster. In the fog, various monsters have gathered in the community. If humans fall into their hands, death is certain. Here, it's revealed that Cha is a 19-year-old high schooler who refuses to go to school. He rejects all social activities, and his only pastime is staying in his room playing games. His parents planned to take him and his sister on a trip, but Cha refused to participate. On the way, his father argues with his mother about Cha's condition. From their conversation, it can be heard that the father is busy with work and rarely cares for the family. Before leaving, the mother prepares a meal for Cha, telling him to heat it up when he's hungry. The argument distracts the father, and tragedy strikes the next moment. Their car crashes into a truck, killing all three of them. At the family funeral, Cha finally makes an appearance. However, he is not sad but rather angry because his parents left him with very little money. He breaks down, realizing that the money is not enough for him to survive in the future. It seems that he originally intended to rely on his parents for life. Emotionally agitated, Cha is carried out of the funeral hall. Back to the present, the base girl sits on the floor with Cha sleeping beside her. She complains about the situation, while Wook, who called her over to take care of Cha, runs away. The ballet girl, unaware of the situation outside, is about to go downstairs when she hears a noise and accidentally sprains her ankle. Coincidentally, Wook passes by. Just when the atmosphere becomes awkward, the missing monster girl reappears and attacks Wook, biting his shoulder. However, Wook is not easy to mess with. He kicks the monster girl into a shabby wall hole and kicks her repeatedly until she stops moving. Seo and a soldier carry the deceased security guard's body to a storage room. Although the soldier opposes it, Seo takes a photo of the guard's horrifying remains with her phone, insisting on showing it to his family. At this time, the base girl also prepares to go downstairs. Around the corner, she discovers a white-collar man holding a wine bottle, mumbling to himself about being betrayed by his boss. As he becomes angrier, he mutates and starts roaring. Seeing this, the base girl knocks him out with a baseball bat. However, the man turns into a monster, and just as the base girl's life hangs in the balance, Teacher appears, slicing off half of the monster's head. They think the monster is dead, but he unexpectedly revives with half a head. It seems that the monsters cannot be killed. At the building's entrance, Lee asks everyone to move objects to block the door to prevent monsters from entering again. The woman from Gangnam says her daughter is still on her way back and asks Lee to block the door later. Considering everyone's safety, Lee rejects her request. At the same time, everyone receives an emergency text message from the government warning them to isolate anyone with symptoms such as nosebleeds, fainting, and aggression. Fear spreads, and everyone is reluctant to leave, hoping for a rescue team to arrive. A curly-haired man believes that no one will come to save them. Since the garage is also sealed, they can't outrun the monsters without a car. He thinks they should return to their homes and urges people to open the stairwell door and climb the stairs with him. However, the soldier stops him, saying that their priority is to block the entrance and observe the situation. The supermarket owner also steps in to prevent the curly-haired man from opening the door, as nobody knows if there are monsters behind it. As they argue in chaos, the sound of a door opening is suddenly heard. Everyone is frightened and retreats, seeing Wook walk out. Seeing his monster-inflicted wound, they treat him like a real threat, so the supermarket owner uses a stun gun to ambush and electrocute Wook. 8 hours later, Cha finally wakes up from his coma. Outside the window, it looks like a scene from the apocalypse. Suddenly, he starts to bleed from his nose. He and Lee go online at almost the same time and discover a post with pictures from a blogger. The post says that this is not a disease, but a curse on humanity. Before turning into a monster, people experience unexplained nosebleeds and hallucinations. The blogger, who was hunted by monsters, advises people to terminate themselves if they show symptoms. But if you're determined to survive, there's one thing you should bear in mind. Just then, the internet connection is lost, leaving them speechless. Cha suddenly remembers the instant noodles he placed by the door and wonders if they are still there. However, he finds not only the noodles, but also the half-headed monster that had its head sliced half off earlier. Luckily, the monster can't see anything. Cha wants to pick up a stick on the ground, but any slight movement could attract its attention. Cha doesn't dare to move, but soon the half-headed monster leaves on its own. The supermarket owner and 2 timid residents go to the storage room where Wook is being held. Although they are unsure if he will turn into a monster, they decide to kill him based on survival rule, better safe than sorry. The owner enters the room wearing a gas mask. As soon as he walks in, he is almost scared to death by the security guard's corpse. Unexpectedly, Wook pretends to be asleep and knocks out the owner with a headbutt. On the other hand, the base girl and teacher team up to search for supplies. As they pass by Wook's room, they hear someone's voice inside, uttering 4 numbers. The base girl guesses it's a lock code, and after entering it, the door indeed opens. The duct-taped man, who had somehow moved to the door, is saved by the 2. It turns out the man is a photo guy, who is the real resident of this room, claiming to have been the victim of a home invasion from Wook. Teacher recalls the green duct tape he saw when he first encountered Wook, and the same tape rolling out of his bag. Photo guy asks the pair what's happening outside, as he could always hear noises from his room. The base girl says it's hard to explain in a few words, but he'll find out soon. The 3 of them leave the room together, with photo guy feeling insecure as he sees the other 2 armed with a stick and a knife. So he goes back to his room to grab a hammer for self-defense. Soon, they find a homeowner who has hanged himself. This reminds the base girl of a friend who committed suicide and left her the base. Teacher assumes the homeowner felt despair and chose to end his life. However, photo guy disagrees, stating the man has been dead for at least a week. Curious, teacher asks how he knows, but photo guy doesn't want to say more. Later, photo guy returns to his room alone, not wanting to cause trouble for the others. Cha once again has the idea of ending himself while he is still human. As he opens the window and looks down, he sees a man from the 12th floor climbing down on a rope, trying to find some food for his 2 young children. The man is completely unaware of the monster nearby, watching him intently. Cha calls out to warn him, but unfortunately the man is still attacked by the monster and falls off the building. Cha closes the window and hides in his room, with the cries for help from the man's children echoing in his ears. Cha wants to help and decides to take a look downstairs. At the same time, the monster also notices him and wraps him tightly like a python capturing its prey. Just when Cha thinks he will be taken away, the monster's head is suddenly severed. The person who saved him is a man living on the same floor as Cha, who had just used a homemade cannon to fend off the monster. Cha wants to speak, but the man stops him, as making noise will attract the monsters. They communicate by writing on paper, and the man reminds Cha not to speak, while also telling him that these creatures won't die. Cha looks downstairs and sees that although the monster has lost its head, its remaining body can still move freely. The man asks Cha if he wants to save those kids, and Cha decides to be a hero. Following the man's advice, he puts on headphones and keeps his phone connected to a call so that any approaching monsters will create noise as a warning. Cha successfully arrives at the man's room. It's revealed that the man is a veteran, proficient in assembling various weapons. But the veteran is disabled in both legs and can only sit in a wheelchair, meaning Cha will still have to save the children himself. The veteran modifies the stick Cha brought into an electric baton with a blade, but it's not enough to kill the monsters and can only be used for self-defense. Cha thinks of the veteran's homemade cannon, but he says he can't lend it because he only has 3 rounds of ammunition. Moreover, the veteran wants to save the last round for when his own life is near its end, to end his life personally. Having no other choice, Cha takes the electric baton and leaves. At this time, the half-headed monster is still wandering around the building. To avoid it, Cha hides in a broken elevator. However, soon the apartment loses power, and Cha takes the opportunity to electrocute the monster before running away quickly. It follows the sound, but cannot accurately locate Cha. Its GPS-like tentacles are still lethal. Cha takes advantage of the monster's keen hearing and deliberately throws 2 bouncing balls, creating constant noise that confuses the monster. He then launches a surprise attack from behind, giving the monster an electric shock. In the end, the half-headed monster collapses to the ground, unable to recover for a while. Lee wants Seo to go to the control room in his place, while he goes to the power distribution room to check on the power. He suspects that it's just a power outage in the building since there are still some lights on outside. Seo insists on going to the distribution room herself. Before leaving, she grabs some supplies from the supermarket, much to the distress of the supermarket owner. Lee hands her a walkie-talkie and urges her to be cautious. Seo prepares to enter the power distribution room, but a lady with a dog warns her not to go in. Her dog has been restless and agitated, as if there's something inside the room. However, Seo bravely enters the room anyway. Meanwhile, Cha finally locates the 2 kids and is about to help them escape when he starts to bleed from his nose. Worried that he might lose control and hurt the children, he tells them to leave quickly. Cha then becomes trapped in a struggle with his dark self as images of being bullied at school flash through his mind. His dark side mocks him, saying that he's just a pathetic weakling trying to act tough in front of others. Feeling frustrated, Cha is gradually swallowed up by his dark persona. Just as Cha is struggling with his inner demons, a monster appears in the building to flex its muscles. It breaks down the door, and the debris falls on Cha. The 2 children try to pull him out, but are too weak. As the muscular monster is about to grab the children, Cha uses his last bit of rationality to cling onto the monster's leg, telling the children to run to room 1408 and find the paraplegic veteran. The children escape the danger, but Cha is left to be beaten by the monster. Fortunately, Teacher and the base girl, who heard the commotion, arrive in time to injure the monster and rescue Cha. The 2 children quickly climb to the 14th floor. The brother, who has never seen such a terrifying scene, is so scared that he wets his pants. On this floor, they encounter the half-headed monster, and the sister quickly covers her brother's mouth, standing still. To their dismay, the muscular monster also climbs up to the 14th floor. Unexpectedly, the half-headed monster hears the movements and attacks it with its tentacles, thinking it's prey. Taking advantage of the 2 monsters' fight, the siblings quickly climb to the 15th floor. The muscular monster pummels the half-headed monster and eventually throws it out of the window. The siblings knock on several doors on the 15th floor, but no one is home. Just as the muscular monster approaches, the strange woman pushing a baby carriage appears, blocking the monster's path. She pleads with the monster not to hurt the children, but is kicked away. In a daze, she sees her deceased child and recalls the accident that took her daughter's life. The woman tells the muscular monster that she's known all along that her child is gone, but the monster doesn't care and brutally beats her. At this moment, Cha and Teacher finally find their way to the children. Cha tells the children to run quickly. Unexpectedly, the woman has mutated as well. She jumps onto the muscular monster's shoulders, clinging to prevent it from harming the children. Even as a monster, the woman still shines with maternal love. Teacher slashes the muscular monster with a knife, causing it to throw the woman to the ground. The monster faces off against the teacher, who lures it step by step toward the window, causing the monster to leap through the glass and fall down the building. The base girl approaches the mutated woman, looking at her monstrous appearance. She wants to raise her baseball bat, but the woman begins to ask about the whereabouts of the children. After a short while, the woman returns to normal. Cha takes the children to room 1408, and the base girl also brings the woman to the same room. She asks her to go in first, then goes to find Teacher. The base girl and the teacher return home together, packing up belongings. They eventually leave the room with a bass guitar and a bag of supplies, heading to room 1408 to meet up with everyone else. On the other side, Seo arrives at the power distribution room and successfully resolves the building's electricity issue. Now, a news broadcast shows the South Korean president declaring a state of emergency and urging citizens not to go outside. However, the president suddenly mutates mid-speech, and the broadcast is interrupted as guards open fire on the president. Everyone is panicking, as it seems the government can't provide help during this crisis. At this point, Lee realizes his sister, the ballet girl, is not on the first floor. She is in her room, dealing with a sprained ankle. After finishing, she uses a knife to cut her ballet skirt. Seo hasn't returned because she encountered a spider monster while leaving. Now, she is wrapped in webbing and hanging upside down from the room's ceiling. Everyone wants to go into the supermarket to get food, but the supermarket owner locks the door from the inside, saying he's not running a charity and they need to pay for the food. Just as everyone is feeling helpless, Photo Guy appears with a box of food and starts distributing it to everyone. The dog lady notices bloodstains on the box, and her dog becomes restless and agitated, so she doesn't dare take food from Photo Guy. Lee uses the community broadcast system to tell all survivors to bring food, medicine, and weapons to the first floor for safety. The Gangnam woman takes advantage of Lee's broadcast to secretly open the door. Her daughter has already run to the apartment entrance, but everyone still restrains the Gangnam woman, preventing her from taking any risks. Just then, the soldier rushes out to save the girl, only to be killed by the long-tongued monster, which also kills the girl with its tentacles. The horrifying scene terrifies everyone, who can only watch helplessly as the long-tongued monster feeds on the girl's body. Everyone is scared, but Lee tries to block the door. The next moment, the monster's tentacle pierces the iron cabinet, narrowly missing Lee. The Gangnam woman blames Lee for her daughter's death, thinking that if she had been allowed to go earlier, her daughter would still be alive. Since hiding in the room is not a long-term solution, Teacher and the base girl plan to go to the first floor to check the situation and bring the others if it's safe. Cha steps forward, ready to join them. The veteran, worried for their safety, insists they take his homemade weapons for protection. On the first floor, everyone is reinforcing the front door. The dog lady and the supermarket owner's wife chat about the Gangnam woman's loss, thinking she's pitiable. The dog lady also casually mentions Seo. It turns out her fiancé also lives in this building. They were supposed to get married soon, but for some unknown reason, her fiancé suddenly passed away before the wedding. The spider creature wanted to devour Seo. However, she managed to remove her coat and quickly hide inside a ventilation duct. The creature relentlessly pursued her into the ventilation duct, but Seo relied on her astonishing physical strength to escape danger multiple times. As she prepared to jump out of the duct, the spider creature spat out a web, tightly wrapping it around her neck rather than her sexy body. She swung like a pendulum, and in her panic, she desperately kicked a glass window, shattering it. She grabbed a piece of broken glass and successfully cut the web, freeing herself. At that moment, her phone, which had fallen to the ground, suddenly rang. Seo couldn't reach the incoming call due to a metal fence. The display showed that it was her deceased fiancé calling. Since there was no signal in the apartment, it possibly tells that she was hallucinating. Exhausted, Seo returned to the apartment that night and punched Lee in the stomach upon seeing him. It turned out that before the mission, they had a conversation in the management room. During that time, Lee had discovered a monster in the power distribution room through the surveillance system, but did not inform her of the truth. The next morning, alarm sirens echoed across the city, and the news reported that the country had entered a state of emergency, with the military overseeing security in the affected areas. The military had confirmed that an unspecified majority of citizens had transformed into unidentified creatures, with the exact cause still unknown. Respiratory and blood contact were not infection routes, but anyone experiencing hallucinations, hearing voices, having a drop in body temperature, nosebleeds, or fainting would be isolated. The unidentified creatures had a powerful ability to recover and regenerate, so they must be dealt with before they fully evolved. The military stated that they were capable of handling the current situation and urged the public to trust the government. However, a crashed helicopter in the city suggested that the military's words were merely meant to calm the public's emotions. As Cha and two others were heading downstairs, they discovered a man's body, still warm, indicating he had died recently. The base girl found a bag of snacks in the man's pocket and handed it to Cha. After their teacher finished praying for the deceased, Cha was suddenly attacked by an unidentified creature. He fell from the stairs and landed beside the ballet girl. Seeing Cha lying in a pool of blood, the ballet girl screamed in horror. At this point, Cha's consciousness was blurred, and he dreamt that he had arrived at his family's funeral. He knelt on the ground, crying and begging his family not to leave him. Just then, his relatives and friends appeared behind him, seeing him as a monster and forcibly dragging him away. Cha woke up from the dream and found out from Lee that he had fallen from the 9th floor and fully recovered in just 3 hours, implying that everyone knew he was infected. Regarding whether to keep Cha in the apartment, Lee called an emergency meeting of all survivors that night. They decided to hold an anonymous vote. The supermarket owner started causing trouble again, threatening Cha with a knife. Before the vote, he tried to convince everyone to kill Cha before he turned into a monster. However, no one was willing to do so. The final vote was with equal numbers for and against. The deciding vote was a void ballot. The supermarket owner couldn't accept the result and refused to let a monster stay in the apartment. But the next moment, he began bleeding profusely from his nose, indicating he had also become infected. The owner finally quieted down, covering his nose and insisting that he was just tired, and that was why he had a nosebleed. As he tried to leave, Cha stopped him and said he also had the right to vote. In the end, he cast a vote in favor. At that moment, the nosebleed-stricken owner passed out. Later, people whispered behind their backs, debating whether to kick the two out of the apartment. Since it was desire that turned people into monsters, the supermarket owner must have become infected due to his greed and selfishness. When he woke up, he asked Cha for advice, wanting to know how he had managed not to become a monster so far. Cha simply told him to sober up. Seo learned from the dog lady that the soldier had died trying to save people, which upset her since he was one of the few good people with combat abilities in the community. The supermarket owner's wife gave Seo a can of food to help her replenish her energy after not eating for a day, but she couldn't eat it, seemingly pregnant. The Gangnam woman looked at her daughter's photo on her phone, immersed in pain. The base girl went to comfort her and gave her a bag of chocolate before leaving, saying that only when she was full would she have the strength to miss her loved ones. In the bathroom, the base girl looked at a baseball bat and thought of the boy who had given her the bass guitar. He had taught her how to play baseball on the field, and their relationship was very much like that of a young couple. Photo guy muttered to himself that he was still alive, his face showing a joyful smile. It was unclear who he was happy for, but then Wook appeared and started beating him without saying a word. Photo guy rolled and crawled, but he managed to fight back briefly before running away at lightning speed. When he encountered other survivors, he lied, claiming that he had been infected. He wiped the blood from his nose, which had been caused by Wook's beating, and asked everyone to lock him up in isolation. Before entering the isolation room, teacher asked him if there was another reason for his actions. Photo guy didn't respond. Wook also found the place and tried to drag Photo guy out, but was stopped by teacher. In the end, Photo guy looked at the two of them and closed the door of the isolation room himself. On the second morning, Cha woke up to find Photo guy next to him, startling him. It seemed that Photo guy was trying to get closer to Cha on purpose. He was curious about what it felt like to be infected, whether it would make him feel powerful. He wanted to know how to become like Cha, who had narrowly escaped death. The supermarket owner's wife secretly gave Seo a pregnancy test, persuading her to take the test for peace of mind. In room 1408, the strange woman was cutting vegetables when she suddenly felt something was wrong and started to transform. Worried about hurting the two children, she quickly hid in the bathroom. An hour passed, and she still hadn't come out. The little girl went to tell the veteran, who was busy with his weapon and hadn't noticed the strange woman's abnormality. He opened the bathroom door and found that the strange woman had started to evolve into a giant womb-like creature, nurturing new life within and incapable of attacking humans. Lee discovered the weapons in the hands of teacher and others, learning that there was a weapons master in the apartment. Lee called Cha out of the isolation room, which annoyed the supermarket owner. He warned Cha that he would be used by Lee. Lee told Cha straightforwardly that he could help him leave, but only if he took on the dangerous tasks. Lee wanted him to bring the veteran on the 14th floor to the 1st floor. The veteran had planned to kill the strange woman before she fully evolved. The woman had previously confessed that she was infected and asked him to kill her if she mutated. But he refused her and couldn't bring himself to harm the gigantic womb-like creature, silently closing the door. When Wook had a conflict with Photo Guy earlier, he stole a key from him. Despite being advised against it, Wook insisted on opening the sealed staircase door to go upstairs, which seemed to be related to the key in his hand. Lee told Cha that the primary target was the veteran, and the two children were secondary. They could abandon the children if necessary. Seo was very angry after learning that Lee was using Cha. However, Cha did this because she had seen through everything. No matter how severe the injuries were, Cha could always survive. The monster transformation was actually a matter of willpower, and he had an exceptional willpower to resist mutation, making him the most potent weapon against monsters. Lee advised Seo to use those who were turning into monsters, but she didn't agree with his idea. Lee took out some no votes, which he had secretly prepared before the voting, intending to replace the yes votes. However, he didn't expect that the number of no votes would exceed his expectations, so he didn't use them. He said that no one else would have a reason to let Cha stay in the apartment. Everyone was doing this not out of conscience, but out of fear. They were worried that they might also be infected one day, so keeping Cha was actually leaving a way out for themselves. Lee then showed Seo an article about infection written by the blogger. Coincidentally, Seo had seen this article on her fiancé's tablet before, suggesting that there might be a connection between her fiancé and the blogger. Meanwhile, Cha begins to transform midway. He opens the door to the staircase intending to kill the monsters. Fortunately, Wook appears just in time to knock Cha back to his senses. However, as soon as the man turns around, he is captured by a monster with long arms. The monster moves at an incredibly fast speed. Just then, a masked girl wielding a bow and arrow shoots the monster's hand, causing it to flee. Luckily, Wook is still alive, but the room behind him is filled with corpses. It appears that the monster has been bringing people here and then draining them of their life energy. The masked girl turns out to be a caregiver. Beside her is an old man named Kang. On the ground, they find a diary that belongs to the monster. It turns out that the monster was once a human who lost his child due to his inability to hold onto his son's hand, leading to the child's accidental death. The thought of having longer arms to save his son became an obsession, eventually causing him to mutate into the long-armed monster. After Wook wakes up, the caregiver attempts to dress his wounds, but he is ungrateful and leaves the room without even saying thank you. Kang advises the caregiver not to worry, as the man seems capable of handling himself. At this point, she notices Cha's injuries and tries to help, but Cha resists. Kang realizes that Cha is an infected person and warns the caregiver to stay away while threatening Cha with a crossbow. Just then, they notice Cha's facial wounds healing on their own. Kang tells Cha to leave quickly, and as he turns to go, he hears Kang laughing behind him. It turns out that it was just a joke. When they learn that Cha is heading to the 14th floor, Kang offers to lend a hand. Meanwhile, in the isolation room, the supermarket owner's wife hides a knife behind her back, watching her husband resting on the couch. The supermarket owner is not only selfish, but also frequently abuses his wife. She tells him that after becoming a monster, she will definitely kill him, but that would be too easy for him, so she'd rather do it while she's still alive. However, the man doesn't take her words to heart. Her actions seem more like a warning, and she doesn't follow through. As she leaves, Photo Guy inquires about Wook's whereabouts and learns that he has gone upstairs. Photo Guy becomes panicked and searches his body, only to find that he has lost his keys. His frantic behavior suggests that he is afraid of Wook discovering something. Finally, Wook uses the keys to open an iron door, revealing a room where Photo Guy develops photographs. It turns out that Photo Guy is actually a pervert who uses his volunteer status to gain access to children, ultimately kidnapping a little girl for abuse and taking numerous photos. The photographs in the room serve as evidence. Cha, the caregiver, and Kang successfully reach room 1408. They inquire about the whereabouts of the strange woman, but only find a gigantic womb creature hidden in the bathroom. They can vaguely see a huge baby inside and occasionally hear the baby's cries. Meanwhile, Seo finally musters the courage to take an early pregnancy test, confirming that she is indeed pregnant. Teacher and the base girl are unwilling to sit and wait for their doom, so they try to find a way out. They discover a large white cloth and spray it with a red SOS signal using paint. They hang the cloth outside the apartment to call for help. Worried that his dark secret will be exposed by Wook, Photo Guy deliberately cuts his hand to prove to others that he hasn't been infected, as he doesn't possess the rapid healing ability. Seeing this, everyone quickly releases Photo Guy. However, he shows no interest in their concern and nervously leaves the scene. He finds a bathroom stall and retrieves a hidden hammer he had used previously to commit a crime. Wook, filled with anger, arrives on the first floor and bumps into Teacher. His phone falls to the floor, but he doesn't bother picking it up. Before he can confront Photo Guy, the latter launches a surprise attack and strikes Wook's head with the hammer. Despite blood pouring from the wound, Wook quickly overpowers Photo Guy and takes his hammer. As Photo Guy walks towards the others, he slanders Wook, calling him a murderer. However, no one dares to step forward and stop Wook. Enraged, Wook repeatedly smashes the hammer into Photo Guy's face, but this is not enough to quench his anger. He drags Photo Guy's corpse to the entrance where it's raining outside. He takes the body out of the building, intending to let the long-tongued monster feed on it. After that, Wook is weak and stumbles to the entrance without any intention of going back inside, but only wants to close the door, thinking that he can no longer be accepted by the people in the apartment. However, Teacher stops him. It turns out that Wook had brought back the corpses of the soldier and the girl to the apartment. Although Wook appears fierce, he is actually a good person. Due to his injuries, he passes out soon. After being suppressed for a long time, the Gangnam woman finally releases her emotions. She embraces the two kids who also lost their loved ones, and the three of them cry together. Everyone buries the soldier and the girl in an empty room. Kang salutes the soldier's grave, revealing that he is also a retired veteran. Seo tries to comfort the Gangnam woman, who says she will become stronger because she is a mother. The supermarket owner's wife worries about Seo facing her pregnancy alone, but Seo asks her to keep it a secret. Once they reach the first floor, the veteran begins working diligently. Cha also receives a new mission from Lee, taking an electric gun to the outer staircase of the building. Meanwhile, the long-tongued monster is feasting when the muscular monster suddenly appears. With both hands, he grabs the monster like an ant, revealing himself to be a heavyweight monster. Photo Guy deserves to be punished, but why does Wook hate him so much? This is related to Wook's past. When he was a teenager, his father was burned to death by a psychopathic man. The scars on his face were also left from that time. He thought the psychopath would be punished by law, but the court found no criminal record or motive for murder. Eventually, the psychopath received probation and soon regained his freedom. One night, Wook encountered the psychopath and asked why he set the fire. The psychopath said it was for fun, showing no remorse or guilt in front of the victim. Angry, Wook stabbed the psychopath in the neck, ending his life. Later, a desperate farmer asked Wook for help, offering money in exchange for killing someone. It turns out the farmer's daughter was kidnapped and killed, and the police's inaction caused him to lose hope. He couldn't stand the culprits getting away with it, so he asked Wook to find the culprits and his daughter. This is also the reason why Wook hates Photo Guy so much, because he reminds him of the psychopath who killed his father. When Wook wakes up, he doesn't realize that the person beside him is the caregiver and grabs her neck. Fortunately, he stops in time. The caregiver, who has an asthma attack, rushes to the door and sprays medicine in her mouth. Kang has a motorcycle parked outside the apartment building. He can't help but observe the situation with binoculars, only to be discovered by the caregiver. She tells Kang that he can just look, but not have any nasty thoughts. Meanwhile, the group debates whether to keep Wook. Some believe that killing Photo Guy was justified and that Wook acted in self-defense. However, the curly-haired man is worried that he might lose control and kill someone else. Just then, Wook walks over, and the man immediately shuts up. To thank Wook for bringing back her daughter's body, the Gangnam woman wants to give him her ring and necklace. But when she looks up, Wook has already left. This shows that Wook is not a cold-blooded killer who would do anything for money. Teacher returns the cell phone he found to Wook. He accidentally sees the text messages between Wook and the farmer, realizing that Wook is a good person, so he is willing to let Wook stay in the apartment. He asks Wook why he burned the payment given to him by the farmer. Wook replies that he couldn't complete the task. From this, it is inferred that Wook likely saw the photos of the girl being tortured to death in the room. On the other side, the base girl gets a nosebleed in the bathroom and walks out with a twisted body, appearing to be infected. However, she steps into a trap set by the group after only a few steps. Seo comes over with an axe, and the ballet girl claps her hands, saying they're having fun. It turns out that this was just a drill. Seo goes alone to the power distribution room to retrieve the lost cell phone. Lee thinks she's too independent and not suitable to stay in the apartment, while Seo realizes her fiancé might be the blogger. Then she wants to leave the apartment to investigate and gets the motorcycle keys from Kang, leaving the community in a cloud of dust. In order to survive, Kang establishes a set of survival rules for Green Home. They need to form teams of at least 2 people, taking turns patrolling and reporting any anomalies immediately. Also, they should provide only a set amount of food for 1 meal per day to conserve resources. What's more, everyone's temperature should be taken at 8 p.m. every night to ensure the infected are detected as soon as possible. Cha, who left early in the morning, finally returns from gathering supplies for everyone. After completing his task, Cha obediently returns to the isolation room. The veteran can't help but defend Cha, stating that he hasn't hurt anyone or turned into a monster, so there's no reason to imprison him. But Lee explains that Cha is still a dangerous person and must be isolated when returning to the apartment. That morning, they come to the door of the isolation room and hand Cha a note detailing his task for the day. He first sets up fishing lines in the passageways, attaching bells and balloons to them as a warning system for any monsters. Then he searches each room in the building for the items everyone needs. Cha risks helping everyone, but the things they ask for are sunblock, dog food, and sanitary pads. Soon, Cha encounters a lightning-fast monster. Downstairs, the people in the supermarket are organizing supplies and worry about Cha not returning. The dog lady is concerned that he might be in danger, but the curly-haired man says it doesn't matter if he's seriously injured since he'll recover after a good night's sleep. Just then, a female resident on patrol blows her whistle, and a hairy monster approaches. Although its face is not visible, the supermarket lady recognizes it as her husband, who was bald and always wore a wig. This might explain why he's turned into a hairy monster due to his obsession. She walks up to her husband with a stick, intending to deal with him personally. After a single blow, her husband regains his sanity. She asks him if he has any last words, and he only asks her to terminate him. In front of everyone, she beats her husband to death. Afterward, she falls into immense grief because, before he died, her husband said sorry to her. She had been waiting for his apology for 30 years, but there's no turning back now. Cha returns to the apartment and sees the supermarket owner dead. His dark persona emerges again, telling him that this will be his future. Fortunately, Cha suppresses the evil power within him, leaves the supplies he found, and departs alone. Seo goes to the hospital where her fiancé worked before his death. It's shown that a fire broke out, causing her fiancé to die, but his body was never found. Despite her superior's objections, Seo submitted her resignation letter and went to the fire scene to search for her fiancé's body. Back to the present, Seo successfully finds her fiancé's tablet in a drawer and discovers an article written by the said blogger in the memo. It's now clear that her fiancé is the blogger himself, who discovered the mutations early on and volunteered as a test subject. Previously, Lee and Cha had only seen half of the article on the blog, but Seo sees the rest on the tablet. Through self-experimentation, the fiancé found out that as long as he could survive for 15 days, he would become stable and turn into a special infected person. Seo is engrossed in reading when she suddenly finds several guns pointed at her. It turns out that the military has arrived and they take Seo away. To save electricity, the power in the apartment is cut off, causing everyone to panic as they worry about not lasting much longer. Not only is there a lack of electricity, but water and food are also running out. Just when everyone is down on their moods, the ballet girl encourages everyone not to be pessimistic. Back in the isolation room, Cha fights with his dark self once again in his sleep. His dark side tries to lure him into desire, which would inevitably lead to Cha mutating into a monster. However, he manages to defeat it again with his willpower. When he wakes up, the ballet girl is sitting beside him and notices the self-inflicted wounds on his hands. She tells him not to be easily taken advantage of by others. He needs to act tough so they won't bully him. She then leaves him a pack of band-aids, telling him to apply them wherever needed. Cha doesn't understand her meaning since his regenerative abilities don't require such things. The ballet girl doesn't want others to take Cha's help for granted and intends to convey to others that Cha gets hurt because of them, and although he won't die, it's still excruciatingly painful. She then asks Lee and the bass girl not to boss Cha around. The bass girl retorts, accusing the ballet girl of doing nothing but talking nonsense. A quarrel ensues, and Lee slaps his sister. Lee finds Cha and tells him that the apartment is becoming uninhabitable. They need to find a new way out before he can no longer resist mutating. Cha goes to the underground parking lot alone, but is attacked by a spider monster. On the other hand, Seo is captured and hung up by the military. From them, she learns that her fiancé was involved in the military's experiments. Seo hadn't found her fiancé's body back then, and although he chose to end his life, he had most likely turned into a monster. The military initially planned to silence Seo by killing her since she knew too much, but Seo tells the military that she knows of someone who can resist mutation. This is what the military is looking for. Seo agrees to help the military find Cha in exchange for sparing her life and the child in her womb. After being attacked, Cha finds himself in a similar situation as Seo once was, with his body wrapped in spider silk and hanging upside down. He's enveloped by a pile of green slime. Meanwhile, Lee, Wook, and others form a rescue team and arrive at the parking lot to save Cha. The green slime senses their presence and leaves Cha's body. They discover the lightning-fast monster is also there, but it appears to be sleeping. To avoid waking it up, they decide to walk around it. However, after trapping Cha, the spider monster infiltrates the building to hunt its next target, the sister among the siblings. At the critical moment, the veteran appears with a homemade cannon. Still, due to his limited mobility, he falls into danger, and the sister is captured by the spider monster. In the parking lot, the group successfully rescues an unconscious Cha and prepares to leave when the base girl suddenly experiences stomach pain. Weapons fall to the ground, causing a commotion that awakens the lightning-fast monster. Lee shoots out one of the monster's eyes, but he is sent flying like an adult toy. Everyone is in grave danger. Lee uses a car alarm to attract its attention, buying some time for the group to escape. However, the monster still pursues them. Just as they are about to face their demise, Lee drives a van to knock over the monster, allowing everyone to quickly enter the vehicle. The car speeds through the chaos, looking for an exit while encountering more mutated monsters that had been hiding in the parking lot. The relentless monsters climb onto the car, with one of them grabbing the base girl's hair. Teacher decisively uses a samurai sword to give her a free haircut. The inside of the car is in complete disarray as everyone fights off the monsters. Eventually, the van crashes into a mound of dirt and comes to a stop. The packages in the trunk spill out, and everyone has no choice but to flee on foot. At that moment, the monster re-emerges. In the nick of time, Kang uses a flamethrower to sweep through the monsters, setting them ablaze. Although the monsters have regenerative powers, they cannot regenerate once they are burned to ashes. On the other side, the veteran is still struggling with the spider monster, while the little girl gets captured. He is injured in his leg, and the others are useless in this critical moment. Eventually, the caregiver and the ballet girl work together to trap the spider monster. The little girl immediately throws a burning lighter at the monster. However, this doesn't cause fatal damage. Fortunately, Cha and others return just in time. He stabs the electric knife into the monster's body and shocks it for a while. The monster finally stops moving. Although Cha saved everyone, they just stared at him, not daring to approach. The female resident apologizes to Cha. This time, Lee lets him decide whether to return to the isolation room or not. In the end, Cha goes back in, feeling uncomfortable before everyone during dinner. Holding his meal, Cha intends to find another place to eat, but unexpectedly encounters the unsociable Wook. The awkwardness is eased when Kang appears. To bridge the gap between the two, Kang voluntarily shows his belly, revealing a surgery scar. At night, the curly-haired man sneaks to the bathhouse to take a bath, complaining about the water usage restriction that allows them to bathe only once every 3 days. While showering, the water turns black, indicating that the water source has been polluted, and the apartment is no longer suitable for living. Lee takes the veteran to the parking lot, hoping he can modify a vehicle to help everyone leave before the situation deteriorates. Their conversation is overheard by a silly boy who runs to the management room and learns that the supplies are running out. Unwilling to sit and wait for death, Silly Boy runs to the convenience store, threatening everyone with a knife to give him the car keys so he can leave the apartment. Unfortunately, Silly Boy is thrown out of the store by Wook like a little chicken. This makes Silly Boy completely break down. At this point, Kang steps in. He tells Silly Boy that people who cause trouble because of fear will be the first to die. Intimidated by these words, Silly Boy becomes obedient. The problems in the apartment can no longer be concealed, so Lee tells everyone about the plan. With only 5 days of food reserves left, they need to venture outside to find supplies. Everyone assumes that Cha will be the one to go, but this time Lee entrusts the task to Wook. Initially, Wook is reluctant, having only agreed to help Teacher manage food. However, after Lee's persuasive words, Wook wavers. At this moment, Silly Boy comes over to apologize, and Wook also apologizes for his earlier behavior. The bass girl plays a tune alone. When Cha finds her, he hopes she can keep playing. Cha says the song makes him feel at home, and the name Sweet Home comes to his mind. With that, the song gets an official name. However, after this brief moment of happiness, danger and accidents follow. Previously, when the bass girl rescued Cha in the parking lot, she became unwell. Now, she finally collapses, looking pale. No matter how much the bass girl knocks on the door, the ballet girl who's idling in the bathroom refuses to open it. After a while, the noise outside the door disappears. When the ballet girl opens the door, she finds the bass girl lying on the floor. Lee, a medical school graduate, diagnoses the bass girl with acute appendicitis, requiring immediate surgery. Lee has no clinical experience, and the surgery requires medical equipment, so Wook volunteers to go out and find it. The caregiver and Cha decide to join the search as well. As they set off, Cha recalls his past when he was an optimistic young man. One day, a rich student transfers to his school. A basketball flies across the court, knocking the rich student to the ground. Cha scolds the person playing basketball and reaches out to help him up. Little did he know that his good intentions would lead to a nightmare. The next day, the rich student brings a group of male classmates to bully Cha. He even forces a timid boy with glasses to join in the bullying and warns others they'll be killed if they talk to Cha. From then on, Cha is isolated by everyone at school. He can't fight back because his father works at the company owned by the rich student's father. If he resists, his father will be fired. Cha's family doesn't understand his plight. Both his mother and sister side with his father, claiming it's for the family's good. Cha overhears his sister denying to her friends that he is her brother. Cha remains isolated, and the rich student shifts his bullying to the boy with glasses. The boy's mother needs money for surgery, and the rich student tells him he'll pay if he jumps in front of a moving car. Just as the boy is about to step out, Cha pushes the rich student onto the road. The oncoming car stops just in time, avoiding a tragedy. But as a result, Cha's father loses his job, and the boy's mother passes away. The boy doesn't thank Cha for helping him, but instead blames him, believing that his mother might have successfully undergone surgery if it weren't for him. Cha has always wanted to be a better person, but everything that has happened makes him feel powerless. He becomes depressed, refusing to go to school, and turns into a shut-in, playing video games all day long. Now, the apartment residents start preparing the operating table, while Cha and the others drive away in a modified car. Unexpectedly, they don't get far before a car accident occurs. It is caused by the muscular creature, which has grown several times larger than before. It had previously captured the long-tongued creature and has likely kept consuming both humans and monsters, causing its body to grow larger. The people in the apartment hear the sound of the car crash and realize they are in danger. Unable to wait any longer, the base girl undergoes surgery without anesthesia. Lee warns her of the risks and possible post-surgery infections. With her informed consent, he begins the operation. As soon as the first incision is made, the base girl faints from the pain. Kang sees the others in danger and rushes out with a flamethrower. As the creature tries to put out the fire, Kang helps Cha, who's been thrown out of the car. However, the creature quickly blocks their path. Kong, who seems to be seriously ill, coughs up blood. Kong initially planned to sacrifice himself to protect Cha, but suddenly CO, released by the military, appears driving a fire truck. The fire truck crashes directly into the muscular creature, but it doesn't seem to harm it. The creature retaliates by grabbing Seo from the driver's seat and tossing her aside. It then begins to shake the truck. Fortunately, Seo is well-trained and brave. She moves to the side of the truck, gets back into the driver's seat, and starts reversing. While Seo is dealing with the creature, Wook rescues his friends, who are trapped inside the modified car. Soon after, the car explodes and catches fire. Under the impact of the fire truck, the creature falls into the ruins. Seo seizes the opportunity and knocks down a burning billboard, successfully killing the creature. Although everyone is injured in this incident, there are no life-threatening injuries. When they return to the apartment, Lee has already completed the surgery. He tells teacher that whether the base girl can survive depends on fate. As compensation for losing Kang's motorcycle, Seo brings back an asthma inhaler for the caregiver. Before the disaster, the caregiver took care of the sick Kong, and their relationship was like that of a father and daughter. Seo finds Cha and asks him if he remembers when he was infected, what the initial symptoms were, and how he managed to survive until now. Cha is somewhat confused by the questions and only answers that he could survive because he still wants to live. Seo then tells Cha that the military is conducting secret experiments, observing the process of some subjects fighting against monster transformations, hoping to find a solution to the crisis. However, these subjects either die or transform into monsters. Only one person has successfully survived for 15 days and then disappeared without a trace, so the military is likely to come looking for Cha next. During dinner, the supermarket lady reveals that she has become infected and, worried about harming others, wants to leave the apartment. However, everyone votes to let her stay in the apartment under quarantine. She feels heartbroken when she sees Cha because she now truly understands his feelings. She regrets not being able to help him and leaves in tears. In the shower, Seo looks at the locator in her hand, hesitating whether to press the button to inform the military. This means that if she presses the button, Cha will soon be taken away by the military for research. Just as she is considering her options, a man, seemingly a soldier, bursts into the shower room. Despite being undressed, Seo's combat skills are not affected, and she quickly subdues the intruder. In the room, everyone gathered to listen to Kang's story. The Gangnam woman brought out a bottle of fruit wine to liven up the atmosphere. Suddenly, a soldier rushed in and saw the fruit wine. He reached out to grab the fruit inside, looking starved. From his disjointed words, they could roughly guess he had just experienced something terrifying. The soldier looked distraught and confused, and Seo wanted to ask him what had happened. But then the soldier's walkie-talkie rang, and a man's arrogant voice came through. The soldier was scared and tried to run, but was held back by the residents. Seeing the soldier in panic, Seo quickly destroyed the walkie-talkie and had everyone remove the SOS sign outside the apartment. If people outside found out there were survivors in the apartment, there would be bloodshed. Seo went to the isolation room to visit the supermarket lady, telling her that she just needed to hold on for 15 more days and she would be fine. But right then, the lady showed symptoms and started having a nosebleed. The mutant security guard, who had been provoked by the stench of rotting fish, suddenly appeared. He took the elevator to the first floor, and his actions were witnessed by Cha and others. They had to reach the first floor before the security guard. Wook was trapped by a monster while going downstairs, leaving Cha as their only hope. In order to arrive as quickly as possible, he jumped down, but ended up breaking his leg in the process. Unable to fully recover, he could only crawl. The Gangnam woman thought that Cha had completed the task and returned, so she went to the elevator. To her surprise, the security guard emerged, carrying a lawnmower on his back and covered in disgusting flies. The security guard was about to kill the Gangnam woman when the teacher appeared, blocking the lawnmower with his samurai sword. However, he was no match for the electric-powered weapon, and in the next second, the security guard cut off the teacher's arm, breaking the samurai sword as well. The teacher stood up and stabbed the broken sword into the security guard's body before dragging him into the elevator. As the elevator doors opened and closed, the teacher and the security guard fought to their last breaths. The teacher knew that he couldn't kill the monstrous guard simply by fighting, so he signaled Silly Boy to throw a Molotov cocktail into the elevator. But Silly Boy was too silly and scared to do it. Seeing this, Lee took the Molotov cocktail and threw it into the elevator, killing both the teacher and the security guard. The tragic scene brought tears to the eyes of everyone present. Later, they held a simple funeral for the teacher in the apartment. The base girl, who had just woken up from her surgery, stood at the back of the crowd and left alone soon after. Unable to accept everything that had happened, she fell into despair. The ballet girl came over and offered her a bag of chocolate, but she didn't want anyone near her because everyone who got close to her had terrible outcomes. The boy who had pursued her ended his life, and now the teacher who had always taken care of her was dead. In order to cheer her up, the ballet girl shared her own story. It turned out that she and Lee had no bloodline. She had asked her parents to take her to see a performance when they got into a car accident, killing both her parents and Lee's. The two orphans were left to rely on each other. Lee took a break from school to work and pay for ballet girls' dance lessons. To repay his kindness, she wanted to study hard, but because of an ankle injury, she was unable to perform difficult moves. After comforting her, she handed the teacher's broken sword to the base girl. The teacher was the first person in the apartment to accept Wook, and his death left a deep sense of loss. Wook poured a bottle of wine on the teacher's grave in his memory. Meanwhile, it's now the 10th day of the supermarket lady's battle against the monstrous transformation. In just 5 more days, she could become a special infected who could control their monstrous form. She keeps telling herself she can make it through. The military has discovered a group of deceased soldiers. It turns out they were killed by the gang previously heard over the radio. After the murders, the gang stole the military's armored vehicle and headed towards the green home. In the observation room, Kang tells Seo that he has lived in the apartment for many years. Based on his memory and experience, there might be a bunker-like shelter beneath the apartment. If they can find it, everyone will be safe. Just then, they notice the armored vehicle speeding across the bridge near the apartment. Seo looks at the tracker in her hand, which she hasn't turned on. So the military shouldn't be able to find them here. But Kang tells her that even soldiers can't be trusted during these times. Before the residents can prepare, the armored vehicle breaks through the entrance. A group of bandits step out of the vehicle. Without a word, the bandit leader stabs the fleeing soldier several times, then cuts off his fingers to try to unlock a code case, but fails. They draw a circle on the ground and order the apartment survivors to stay inside. The leader then orders his men to search the building for all survivors. During this time, Kang is captured by the thugs while covering for Wook. The veteran is also caught. The little boy is saved by the green slime monster and narrowly escapes. The female resident accidentally steps out of the circle and is shot. The ruthless bandit plans to drag her away for his own desires, but she's already dead. Faced with these thugs, everyone is filled with anger but unable to resist. The vicious thug discovers the weak base girl. He brutally stabs her wounds with a rod and even licks her blood. He's clearly a pervert. Just as the thug is about to do more harm, his shady accomplice named Shady appears and tells him the boss wants to see him. As a result, the base girl narrowly escapes this ordeal. However, soon after, the thug realizes he's been deceived. Lee asks the bandit leader where they have been and what those places look like now. The leader mentions a church with tight security. However, when they stormed in, they found almost everyone inside dead. Strangely, there were no signs of monster attacks. He guesses they killed each other, and in his opinion, humans are more terrifying than monsters. Seo remembers the gun hidden in the ventilation duct, but it's gone. It turns out Wook found it when she hid it, and he now has the gun. In a critical moment, Seo appears and takes down a thug with her bare hands. They then meet up with the little boy. As the slime monster saved the boy, Wook doesn't harm it. The bandit leader thinks Lee has strong leadership skills because this is the worst group of survivors he's seen, yet they have the largest number of people. Therefore, he wants Lee to join his team. Considering everyone's safety, Lee pretends to agree and takes them to meet the quarantined supermarket lady. Unexpectedly, these people are ruthless and shoot her dead when they discover she's infected. While the bandit leader is away, the survivors prepare to save themselves. However, the bandit leader threatens Lee's life, forcing them to give up. At this point, the supermarket lady resurrects and approaches to kill Lee. Cha blocks an attack with her body and reluctantly strangles her to death. When the bandit leader learns that Cha is a special infected, he becomes very interested and takes Cha to the rooftop for torture. Downstairs, the nasty thug starts to target the caregiver and orders her to go to the operating room. As he's about to assault her, the base girl attacks him with a broken knife. However, she's immediately beaten by the thug. When busy dealing with her, the thug doesn't notice the caregiver behind him and is killed by her. Having never killed somebody before, the caregiver is quite shaken and has an asthma attack, causing her medication to fall to the ground. Just as she's about to give in, Wook appears in time and helps her to improve her condition. She tells Wook that she killed someone, but he comforts her, saying it's okay because that person wasn't really human. Seo arrives on the first floor and successfully kills the thug guarding the area. Everyone tries to escape, but another thug blocks their way. He shoots and kills a survivor, forcing Seo to drop her weapon. He then proceeds to punch and kick her while she desperately covers her stomach to protect her unborn child. This enrages the others, who band together and manage to kill the thug. Afterward, they start cleaning up the scene when suddenly the veteran starts bleeding from his nose. On the rooftop, the bandit leader uses many ways to torture and kill Cha, such as beheading, gutting, or simply throwing him off the building. Just as he's about to act, he thrusts his hand into the leader's chest and throws him off the high-rise. A henchman shoots Shady in the neck, but he recovers in a second and kills his attacker. It turns out he is also a special infected, like Cha. Seeing this, another thug backs down and Shady spares him. Shady extends his bloodied hand for a handshake with Cha, but at that moment, a military helicopter flies overhead. Numerous red documents scatter in the air. They are announcements from the military encouraging people to report special infected individuals. Cha asks the man why he killed his accomplices, and Shady claims to be a wolf among rabbits, blending in just for fun and manipulating them before ultimately killing them. He believes this isn't a crime, but a survival rule in this world. Cha counters, saying not all monsters harm people, and even takes Shady to the 14th floor to see the strange woman who transformed into a womb-like creature. The man admits that such non-harming monsters exist, but questions if there are any humans who wouldn't hurt monsters. The military's announcement is the best proof because by reporting special infected individuals, informants are promised safety and relocation to secure camps. Shady further claims that once his so-called friends find out, they will no longer protect him because humans cannot be trusted. As Shady and Cha descend the stairs, he has Cha walk in front of him. Meanwhile, the people on the first floor are in a state of readiness, with their guns aimed at the elevator. Lee chooses to trust Cha, but others still point their guns at Shady. Cha asks everyone to lower their weapons because Shady saved him on the rooftop. The man then tells Cha that he hopes they can go together to find others like them, as the people in the apartment are just using him and will ultimately betray him. He reveals that he participated in military experiments, initially believing he had contracted a disease. He volunteered for the experiments to separate himself from the monsters. The military tried various methods, such as freezing, piercing, and burning, but none of them worked. Covered in wounds, Shady finally understood that it wasn't because a monster was inside him. He himself was the monster. His monstrous form looked like a pool of blood, specifically inhabiting corpses. Later, he went berserk in the lab, killing researchers and inhabiting their bodies. He believes he has been purified, becoming a higher being than humans, who should be eliminated from nature. He then tells Cha to accept the reality that humans and monsters cannot coexist. On the other hand, despite the little boy's attempts to stop him, a survivor burns the slime monster hiding in a corner. They believe even though the monster had saved humans before, there's no guarantee it wouldn't turn hostile later. Cha finds it hard to accept, as even if there are good and bad monsters, humans cannot peacefully coexist with them. Lee shows the ballet girl the military announcement, and she assumes her brother wants to betray Cha. Lee explains that no one can predict when the people in the safe camp will mutate, and they cannot guarantee everyone's safety. In these uncertain situations, making clear promises is likely deceptive. Lee hasn't made any decisions and just wants to hear Cha's thoughts on the matter. However, after the incident with the slime monster, Cha becomes estranged from everyone and refuses to communicate with Lee. Shady tells Lee and Seo that the military's final resolution is to sweep multiple areas as much as possible when they cannot distinguish between humans and monsters, or when they are unsure when a human will become a monster. They won't provide support but will instead destroy everything. Even if they report special infected individuals, safety is not guaranteed. Seo then confesses to Lee that the military gave her a locator, but she didn't use it. Instead, she handed it over to Lee and placed it in a drawer. However, their conversation is overheard by the curly-haired man hiding by the door. When Seo and the others leave, he secretly presses the locator's button, expressing that he doesn't want to die there. On the other side, Kang was digging a hole on the first floor, as his intuition told him there must be a secret passage underground. The caregiver came over and told him to be careful. However, she suffered an asthma attack and fainted. Unfortunately, they had run out of asthma medication. Wook had no choice but to carry the caregiver on his back and decided to take her outside the apartment to find medicine. However, they were stopped by Shady, who suspected that they were going to report them to the military. After knocking Wook down, Shady took the car keys from his hand. Cha believed they wouldn't betray the group, so he took the keys from Shady and urged them to leave quickly. Unexpectedly, Cha's act infuriated Shady. As Wook carried the caregiver away from the apartment, Shady shot and killed them both. He then began to slaughter the people inside the apartment. Cha tried to stop him, but was sent flying with a punch. A resident, who had always been submissive, finally became a hero and took a bullet for the dog lady, paying with his life. Seo fired several shots at Shady, but his recovery was fast. At this point, Cha finally saw Shady's true colors, and the two of them fought fiercely. Cha was no match for Shady and could only take a beating. He even told Cha that the supermarket lady wasn't killed by strangulation. He had only left in a pool of blood after her body was burned. After Shady subdued Cha, he prepared to kill the other people in the apartment. Just then, a solar eclipse appeared in the sky, and Cha's body began to change. He started to evolve. A giant wing grew from one of his arms, and Cha transformed into a dark angel. Seeing Cha's monstrous form, Shady became ecstatic. The wing enveloped Shady, and although Cha had only partially evolved, his power was enough to kill Shady with ease. However, at this point, Cha had completely lost control, and even wanted to attack the other people in the apartment. Just then, the veteran used his body to stop Cha, and the wing pierced through his body. Cha finally regained consciousness and broke down in despair. Not long after, Cha collapsed into unconsciousness, and the veteran stopped breathing. In front of the apartment, Wook mustered his last ounce of strength to carry the caregiver to the car. However, he collapsed at the car door. Cha finally woke up, but had lost his memory. Looking at the lifeless body of the man before him, he couldn't remember who he was. Yet, flashes of moments spent with the man brought tears to Cha's eyes. The others chose not to reveal the truth to him, thinking perhaps that forgetting was the best outcome. The little boy was melancholic after the death of the slime monster, believing that the creature that saved him might have been their father transformed. His sister, however, preferred to believe that their father was dead instead of accepting him as a monster. This led to a dispute between the siblings. At that moment, Kang recalled the veteran giving him a key after being infected. When he opened a cabinet with the key, he found a box containing a handmade medal crafted by the veteran, a gift for the siblings. After putting on the medals, the siblings finally made amends. The very next morning, the siblings discovered that Kong had passed away peacefully in his sleep. When burying Kong, Seo found that the hole he had dug earlier actually led to a secret underground passage. The event Kong had anticipated finally happened. But no one knew that Shady had not died. Cha had only destroyed his human shell. Shady, now a watery presence, drove away an armored car parked outside. That night, a heavy snowfall covered the sky. The military set up a perimeter around the apartment, promising to take the remaining survivors to a safe camp after handing over the infected. Everyone hoped Cha would stay in the apartment, but the amnesiac Cha seemed to want to leave. The little boy noticed Cha shivering from the cold and wrapped a scarf around his arm. Meanwhile, a thug went alone to the basement to flip the breaker switch in an attempt to escape, only to cause an explosion and lose his life to Satan. Hearing the explosion, the military assumed the residents were armed and began shooting. Everyone had no choice but to hide in the underground passage. The ballet girl, not seeing Cha, was worried. Lee noticed her concern and decided to find Cha and bring him back. Before leaving, he promised his sister that he would return safely. Soon after, Lee found Cha and once again gave him the chance to choose. In the end, Cha walked towards the snowy outdoors while Lee did not return to the secret passage. It was then that the ballet girl realized her brother had lied to her. Alone in the management room, Lee looked at the family portrait in his hand with tearful eyes. He had begun to show symptoms of a nosebleed. He was infected. Not wanting to harm others, he chose to stay in the apartment. On the other side, Cha slowly walked through the hail of bullets from the military. During this time, flashes of the people in the apartment appeared in his mind, seemingly restoring his memory. In the secret passage, everyone began searching for an exit. Finally, with the help of a pet dog, they saw the light of day again and boarded military vehicles to head to the safe camp. However, Seo joined the military ranks, determined to continue investigating her missing fiancé's situation. Cha woke up in the armored vehicle, his wounds healed. However, the driver was none other than Wook, whose scars had vanished. However, it could be inferred that this was not the real Wook, but rather Shady inhabiting his body, using his regenerative powers to heal the scars. This indicates that the stories for the special infected are far from over. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.